it's time to install the control arms on the RalliFart. While we're down there, we're also going to be installing the sway bar end links for the front, and we might do the back, we'll see. And then of course, we're going to replace all the hardware that connects all of this. And of course, we'll also replace the outer tie rod ends. And with the car jacked up, we need to loosen up the bolts that hold the control arm. We have the rear bushing bolt, and it's going to be this one right here. It goes through the cross member and then up into the frame. So there's actually a nut back here that we're going to need to basically hold while we loosen this bolt. And then for the front bushing, it looks like we just have the bolt. It doesn't look like there's a nut anywhere that we can access, so we're just gonna go with that. And then for the ball joint, we have this bolt, which is held in by the knuckle and this nut. So these are the three areas that we need to loosen. The rear bushing bolt and the front bushing bolt are both 19 millimeters, and then the ball joint bolt is 17 millimeters. So we'll use our breaker bar to loosen these up. Whew, this rear bushing bolt is no joke. So just be prepared to, basically give it all you got. Now that these bolts are loosened, we're gonna get a jack or a jack stand to put under the rotor for this side of the car, just in case, something might fall. Yeah, you just never know while we're taking the control arm out. All right, so I learned how to use the flash feature on my phone. I had to use a rubber mallet hammer to basically get this unstuck from the knuckle. And so this is pretty much loose, but it's still hanging in there inside of the cross member. So we just probably need to get this up a little bit more, and we'll have some space to move the control arm out. So when measuring the stock Ralliart control arm, we're getting about 7.4 pounds on this generic scale from Walmart. And then once we weigh the Evo X arm, it pretty much weighs the same according to this scale. Like I said, generic Walmart scale. So this might not be as accurate, but apparently they weigh the same. So that's kind of crazy. The shape and form of these control arms are basically the same. It might look a little off here just because one's on top of the other, but I think overall they're basically the same. And so I think we're still good to continue with getting this replaced. And so the new bolts that we got from amayama.com are pretty much identical. Everything's looking good. I did forget to buy the bolt that holds the ball joint. So we're just gonna end up having to clean this up. No biggie, it's still good. Just gonna take a little bit more work. We went ahead and took off the sway bar end link since we have all this extra space. And now time to put the Evo X control arm in. Once you're putting the Evo X control arm back on, make sure you put the bolt for the front bushing first. That way you can easily maneuver the entry into the cross member. It'll be a lot easier for you, and you don't have to deal with other bolts just being there in the way, or the ball joint being put into place. So you can maneuver this a lot easier. Just a word of advice. So we got the bolts in for the rear bushing and the front bushing. And if you're having trouble getting the ball joint inside of this part of the knuckle that holds the ball joint, a good trick is getting a jack and pushing it up once the ball joint is positioned inside of where the knuckle holds the ball joint, and it'll basically press it up. As you can see right there, we're hitting the top of the area. It won't go all the way through. It has like a little ridge that basically stops it from going anymore. So that looks pretty good. If you're having trouble getting this bolt into the knuckle, you kind of see where I kind of already started trying to hammer it. You could just put a 17 millimeter socket, preferably a deep one. And then you can use one of the old bolts to kind of get in this space right here. And then just start hammering it away with a normal hammer, and you'll be able to get it in. That's how I was able to do it. So we got all the bolts nice and snug on the control arm. It's it's looking pretty good. One thing that's kind of concerning is the sway bar. It's basically almost hitting, but it's not. And so I'm curious to see what happens once we fully install everything back and with the new sway bar and links. We won't worry about that too much right now. We'll focus on everything else we're installing. We're gonna use a paint marker to basically put a mark on where this nut is for the outer tie rod end. So we have a good reference to replace it with our Whiteline outer tie rod ends. We'll try not to mess with the toe too much on the car. While that paint's drying, we'll be torquing all the bolts on the control arms to spec. And for the torque specs, we're just gonna go based off the Ralliart torque specs. In the front bushing and the rear bushing, it should be about 81 foot-pounds. And then for the ball joint, this bolt will be torqued down to about 52 foot-pounds. And then when we're removing the outer tie rod end, if you don't have any kind of press kit to take it out, a very good trick is to get the nut and basically loosen it up to this point to keep it inside of the threads. And you can use a hammer or something to basically hammer it out of this position. So that should work pretty well. Thanks, Chris Fix. All right, and so we were able to get it pretty close to that mark that we had. We kind of had to twist the rod just a little bit for this to kind of fit properly, but this should be kind of in the same spot where it was on the original. And so now we got to torque this down to, I think, 19 to 20 foot-pounds, and then we're good with this. Before we do anything with the sway bar end links, we're just gonna go and take care of the other side, just like we did here. All right, so we got the driver's side finished. And I will say something about these outer tie rod ends. Maybe it was just me being dumb and not doing something and not paying attention. But basically, when I was looking at the hubs, they were pretty bad. So I don't know what I did wrong or what I missed, but basically I ended up just kind of doing this as straight as possible by the eye, getting both sides, using a freaking broomstick to like kind of measure the hub right here and then to the wheel well to see like where it would kind of point close to anything that I could find here, like these tab push-ins. So just be aware, regardless, you're gonna want to get an alignment. And next we move on to our Whiteline sway bar end links. These are specific for the Ralliart. So we're gonna push the car up from the control arms and simulate the car being at full load. That way we get a good measurement of how long we need to make these end links. And then when you're doing the adjustable sway bar end links, make sure that you use the heavy duty washers that are provided for a Whiteline. So just keep that in mind. It's not binding or anything right now. We gave it some space from the control arm. So we'll see how this works. We're gonna do this one and then the other one. All right, and that's the other sway bar end link. So we got these installed with a simulated preload with the jacks that we have. And so now, yeah, it's basically finished. I'm exhausted. It's freaking 2 in the morning. So we'll continue with this tomorrow or some other day. So finally, we have converted our Ralliart lower control arm and ball joint out of tie rod end setup to more of an Evo X aftermarket style. It feels so much better. This lower control arm is much more solid, and you kind of see I have some little aftermarket Amazon coilovers. They're actually pretty good, but I don't know what the reputation is on these. I think they're called the FAPO or FAPO or whatever. But I mean, they've been working pretty well. They're just a little bouncy. But in the future, I want to get some BC Racing coilovers. I think that's the best option for my Ralliart. And then again, as you can see, these are the older control arms. These are the stock ones. These are also in a lot of base Lancer models. Rear bushing is way smaller on these, like diameter is like way smaller. The Whiteline Evo X bushings are way wider and a lot stronger. We needed to replace our outer tie rod ends anyways. Just look, these things are busted as shot. Eventually dirt was gonna get in there. And yeah, they don't really do us well for our lowered car. So it's a good thing we want to go ahead and replace these. And of course, we always have the extra bolts just in case something happens to ours for some weird reason. But these are like really, really strong bolts for the lower control arm. It's good to always have extra. And if you have an Evo X and you've messed with the suspension in the front, you already pretty much know what these are. These are brackets that hold the front sway bar and the sway bar end links to the control arm. Probably end up using these to get those air routing like fins that route air to the brakes on the front of the car, which would be really nice for brake cooling. But I have aspirations for this car, and I want to do a little bit more custom air routing for the brakes and get better airflow. So we'll see if we end up using these or not, but those are good to have as well. Got these from amayama.com. I love that site. It has everything that I could possibly find, even if it is a little bit expensive. But shout out to amayama.com in Japan. And then the instructions that Whiteline provided for the Ralliart front sway bar end links, they're not very specific to the car. I think because a lot of other cars use them as well. So it's kind of very generic instructions. I mean, it is really useful information, but you're probably better off looking for more specific things for your specific car. In my case, I'm kind of messing with the sway bar a little bit and not really too sure what the positioning is supposed to be on the sway bar, but I'm just making sure I'm doing all the basics, such as making sure it's not under preload, and you know everything could be tightened without any kind of like difficulty. And other things like not touching when it's fully turning and all that fun stuff. I made sure we've tightened all the bolts and nuts and everything to spec. And so now the last thing to do is get the wheels back on there and finally go for a test drive, see how it handles. Pretty sure the toe is gonna be off because I had to basically kind of mess with this and make sure it was straight, and I ended up having to just adjust it to what I could do level with a freaking broomstick for now. But I just wanna see how this rides for now, and then we can worry about getting a proper alignment here in the near future. So after coming back from a test drive with the RalliFart, turning the car doesn't feel as unpredictable or as wobbly anymore. So that is already a plus. I know I definitely need to get an alignment, especially for that toe. It's definitely rubbing up on the plastic cover when you're turning all the way to the left, on the right side at least. So definitely need to get an alignment, that's for sure. And you know, we're getting this this positive caster because of the rear bushing that we got. And not only that, but the whole geometry of the new control arm just kind of changes how this is gonna basically position itself once it's installed like it is now. Other than that, like it feels really good. It already feels better even before an alignment. So we need to get that done, and we'll do that here pretty soon.